But joining me now for a conversation is Washington Informer reporter, education reporter, Sam P.K. Collins, and as well as William Haith, the principal of Ballout Senior High School, and Wanda Lockridge of the William O. Lockridge Community Foundation. Sam actually moderated a program sponsored by the William O. Lockridge Foundation where school principals talked about school safety. So Sam, welcome to WIN TV. I'm going to turn the program over to you, as well as welcome Wanda and Principal Haith, and I'll be listening in.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Many thanks for coming on the program. Excuse the noise. I'm in the field per usual as a reporter. Many thanks, Mrs. Lockridge and Principal Haith, for being on this program. And like Denise said, we had actually the William O. Lockridge Community Foundation hosted a forum about a couple weeks ago featuring Principal Haith and other principals. Before we go in, Mrs. Lockridge, would you mind just briefly explaining what the foundation is about and what purpose it serves in the community?
Absolutely. Sam, good to see you again. Thank you so much for having us. The William O. Lockridge Community Foundation was created in 2011, mainly for the purpose of just filling a gap for some of the young people to get some educational resources. And we started out, frankly, with just doing scholarships. We did 4 $1,000 scholarships that year in 2011. And today we've given over $300,000 of scholarships to several Ward 7 and 8 schools. And so we're here. We want to just make sure that we have an opportunity or have a vehicle where young people have an opportunity to just learn outside of the classroom. So we also take kids to Africa. We've been now to Benin, we've been to Ghana, and we've been to Cameroon. Next year, we're going somewhere next year. So we're planning that now. And we also have a U.S. Foreign Services initiative that introduces young people to careers in international affairs.
That's awesome. That's very awesome. And among the many things that the foundation has done, we include the forum that took place 2 weeks ago. And I just want to turn it over to Principal Haith. Speaking about school safety, he definitely outlined a lot of great things that Ballout was doing. My understanding is that earlier you came from a community walk. If you could just, talk briefly about that and talk more about how you're preparing for the upcoming school year.
Yes, thank you. One, thank you for having me on. Again, my name is Principal Haith here at Ballout High School. It's important for us to really kind of bridge that gap between the community and the school. And in order to do that, folks that work in the school also have to understand the community and our community needs. So therefore, we took a walk throughout our community. We got to meet some of the business owners, some of the community members and stakeholders. We got to walk past and walk in the University of District of Columbia Community College, MLK Elementary School right there on the corner. So it was really important for us to really kind of get a grasp of our community and understand what our students see and walk through every day as they attend school, so that we can start to make the decisions that we need to make in order to support students.
That's wonderful. And in regards to that, and speaking about the community and further engaging them, what kind of feedback did you get earlier this month during the forum at Ballout?
So some of the feedback I got was more visibility of our staff and our administrators. Some of the other feedback I received was to really kind of build more partnerships with more of the community stakeholders, such as the churches, our feeder schools, our A&C commissioners, and also some of the business owners and church pastors. So those were some of the things that we received as feedback. And then there was also some ideas and suggestions about just how long our staff will stay visible before and after school. A staff member being the first person that a student sees before they enter the building instead of a security officer. And so I do want the community to know that we were listening and now that we're starting to implement some of those things that we heard.
Definitely. And with visibility comes with, transparency. And what part does that play when it comes to students, feeling comfortable talking about their problems or accessing adults throughout the school year?
So one of our foci is to be a healing-centered practice. It's a part of our redesign, but it's also a part of our fabric now. And being a healing-centered practice school, and it's somewhat of a broad topic, but to be more specific, we're targeting adults and training our adults to be able to welcome and receive students. And what that means is that we should be able to acknowledge and identify signs of stress or any type of pressures that are being put on our students. We're training and developing our teachers to have conversations with students. And I think when you look at the broader umbrella, it's more important for us to really create an environment of a sense of belonging. There are 5 competencies that we're bringing in order to support that sense of belonging piece. And we're looking to develop not just our teachers, but even down to our building services folks and our security personnel, so that all students are welcome, but also that all adults are able to identify signs of need from our students.
And I think that's pretty awesome, because it sounds like at this point there's an infrastructure that's being built. And it, to my vantage point, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going across all schools. Like, there's been communication for a long time coming for this. And, speaking of communication, Ms. Lockridge, I'm just astounded at the assortment of principles that you were able to bring together. I saw Ballout in the building. I saw H.D. Woodson. We saw Eastern. We saw Kip Legacy. And I know I'm forgetting one. All right, that was it. That was it.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. Would you mind just talking more about how that came together, how you were able to leverage those relationships and bring students to the table?
So as I said, the foundation started in 2011. And so one of the things that we do, we represent Ward 7 and Ward 8. At one point when William was on the school board, it was a hybrid school board. And his focus areas was Ward 7 and 8. And so we want to make sure that's our concentrated area. We wanted to make sure that we had a diverse group. We wanted to make sure that Ward 7 voice was heard, and we wanted to make sure that Ward 8 voices were heard in this conversation. And one of the things that I've said earlier is that principals generally talk among themselves, but it was important for the foundation for them to hear the community, and the community can hear them and say, listen, this is what we need. We need your help in making sure that our kids are going and coming to school safely. And so we had a conversation, and I guess what was one of the things that was heartbreaking to me, and just about all the conversations I was having with family and friends, it will always end up with safety, public safety, and our students. And we wanted to just make sure that we had a space where principals could speak freely about their needs, what they're doing, and to talk to the community and say, listen, we need your help. It's everybody's responsibility to make sure that our kids are safe. One of the parents in the audience said that they are up next. They're up next. So we're here to make sure that they equip with what they need to make sure that they can carry on.
You sort of already answered this, but if you could just, what else do you think parents and community members took away from that event?
So it's multifaceted, right? There was a lot of information. We did breakout sessions. And one of the questions that we asked each of the groups was to say to them, what is it that you could do, or what are the next steps? So some of the next steps that came out of it is, not always parents are able to come to the school for whatever their circumstances are. They may have transportation issues. They may have food issues. It could be a number of things, but to go out into the community. One person suggested to go into like a Washington Highland Community Center and take your PTA presidents there and listen to parents there and just move it throughout the community. The other thing that came out of it and resonated throughout the conversation was that DC is rich with resources and initiatives, but the implementation is sort of poor, as they said. That's their words. And so we want to be that vehicle. And I know there are a number of people out there doing all type of things to make this work. And we want to also be a partner in that space. We want to be able to be a vehicle where we can do some benchmarks. One person talked about doing an SS mapping, which is very important because of all the resources that you have. Let's see what's working. Let's see what can be combined. Principal Haith just talked about more partnership. There are a lot of nonprofit organizations out there, some of us doing some of the same work, and we need to come together because we, quite frankly, are working with our same babies. And so those are some of the things that we heard. So we want to do a white paper. We're working on, we don't want to rush it. We're talking about a 90-day, and we're going to also do this conversation with some middle school principals. to have the same conversation. What we heard is we don't want to stop this conversation. This has been a helpful space for us to talk about what we need and how you can be helpful. So we will be continuing to do this work. We want to be partners, and we are here to stay for the long haul.
Very excited to hear that. As y'all might have heard by now, you know, the mayor, public safety officials, they rolled out a bevy of initiatives. We're talking about a curfew that's been instituted soon. The deputy mayor's office has conflict resolution things in place. We're talking about the training of new safe passage workers. And you spoke to this already, of course, but if we could start somewhere in just bolstering a safety network, where could we start first? You know, what's at the top of your wish list? And I can start with Principal Haith.
So, yeah, so I am familiar of the new policies that's coming down from the mayor. And I think for us, if we could start anywhere, it's just, again, with the resources that we have, that we've been allocated. I think the response that was mentioned earlier, that, you know, being poorly implemented, I think that's something we do need to do better. So just building out those structures where we're providing those mental health supports for our students and their families is something that's critical for us. So when we think about starting, let's start with our students, making sure they have access to them, and those partners, we're leveraging those partners for their resources, but also letting our parents know, hey, we also have resources for you all as well. So that's where I would like to start, just really laying out and building those structures, and then kind of expanding that to the community where we're really enhancing our partnerships and making sure that those structures are strong and in place.
And as far as inside the schools, you know, just thinking back to what WTU President Jacqueline Poe Lyon talked about earlier this week, just about teachers not feeling safe. You know, in terms of that, how can we better, you know, bolster relationships between teachers and students, and you know, create a safer school environment, not necessarily placing blame on one party, but how do we go about doing that in school?
Right. I think that's a great question. There's a few things I think about with that. One, we have to ensure that inside of Blue High School and the surrounding matter is safe and secure for both teachers, students, and families. So we have to ensure that. The second piece is what I heard Dr. Gigi talking about, is making sure that there's wellness and mental wellness supports for our teachers as well. So I'm happy to say that going into this school year, using some of our school improvement funds, we're actually targeting teacher wellness. We have a full-time coach that will focus solely on teacher wellness. We want to make sure Ballout High School is a place where people want to come to work and they want to come to interact with our students. But we also realize that our teachers also have their own problems, and sometimes they need help navigating those problems and or even support with those problems. So that's one of the pieces. The second piece is my entire staff, including our security apparatus, will go through a training where we will support our entire staff with a sense of belonging. I keep using that word because that's one of the targets that we are targeting for in our survey, the panorama survey that the DCPS gives us on a biannual basis, and we can determine our percentage of growth, you know, based on what our baseline is. So we're looking to support and develop teachers and creating a welcoming environment. We're working with our security officers to create a welcoming environment for not only our students, our parents, and our community folks as well. So again, the number one priority is to ensure that Ballout High School is a safe place. And then also we'll be targeting mental wellness supports for teachers, students, and our staff.
Yeah, thanks. Principal Haith, you just dropped a whole lot of science. We do have to bring you on at some point and talk about those acronyms you dropped. I think the community will want to know more about that, just to know how y'all do y'all work in the background. Before we sign off, you know, I wouldn't want you to give away all of the secrets, Mrs. Lockridge, but can you just tell us what we can anticipate with the middle school forum that's going to come up at some point in the near future?
Absolutely. So for those who were not able to participate and come to the conversation we had with high schools, you can anticipate at least 4 principals middle school principals having a conversation about exactly what we did at the high school level. We want to talk about what the community see, how they can be helpful, because it's not only the principals. And yes, they are responsible for our kids once they get in the building, but we all responsible again for our babies. And so you expect to have conversation with that, more breakout sessions. And then at the final day, what the next steps are. We are going to continue this conversation. I wanted to go back to a question that you asked in terms of where do we start? And where do we start is just that, what Principal Haith said. Take that first step. That first step is going to lead you to the next step, to the next step. And so one of the things that I also heard before we get off the line is that parents also need resources. I heard one young person saying we had a number of young students in the audience that shared their voice. They were incredible. And so I'm very hopeful for the future because we have some dynamic scholars in our community. But they said that we have so many programs for students. We need programs for our parents. And Dr. Haith just said it, parents and teachers, they're human beings. They get up every day and they do the very best that they can do. And so again, you're going to expect us to be very visible in this space. We want to be, again, partners. And I look forward to having that conversation. We're looking at maybe in October, but please stay tuned to our Facebook page, to our website to continue to get information on how we proceed with this conversation of keeping our students safe.
Yes, I am very excited to see that. You know, as many know, middle school is a precarious time. That's a bridge.
That's
another level.
That's a whole nother level.
I'm telling you. So I'm definitely excited to see what comes out of that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Wanda Lockridge and Principal Haith on the screen here. And, you know, just many thanks, as always, for your time and your willingness to be transparent with the community. I'm very sure that they appreciate it.
And Sam, thank you so much for also moderating. You did an absolutely great job keeping us on point and having the conversation to go flow. So we appreciate your work and efforts as well.
My absolute pleasure.
Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, thanks.
I just want to say that, yeah, it was a great conversation. I want to thank everybody for being here today and for the comments that we've gotten. You know, people out there really are happy to hear the positive news that's coming out, especially from our Ward 8 schools, but especially as it relates to taking care of teachers and families and what the Lockridge Foundation has done. So that's wonderful. And I think it's important for us, Sam, as you know, as a community newspaper, to really share this kind of news. I mean, everybody runs to the school, Principal Haith, you know that, and Wanda, that when there's a crisis, when something negative has happened, but they don't always get to hear, you know, the good things that are happening in those buildings. And so we want to make sure that we continue this relationship, that you can tell us about this citywide swim team that you're putting together over there, the academics successes of your students, and just keep us informed. So our house is your house. And we certainly want to keep you connected as well. You know, William O. Lockridge Foundation and Wanda Lockridge always have a home here. So thank you all for joining us today.
And thank you for sharing this information. I always say the Washington Informer is a paper about us and tells stories for us and about us. So we appreciate the work that you all are doing.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all so very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.